Right, lads, I'll do another educational video as we are probably going to just have a pretty boring rest of the week. So, why not fill it up with some amazing, interesting stuff? But what I noticed was one of the most asked questions is how to come up with ideas. Okay. And I'm not going to say that this is easy when you first start because it's not. You know, when I first started, I looked at this and had zero fucking clue what it all meant, right? Trade ideas only come through experience and watching the charts. And trade ideas are only going to come from what specific time frame or what specific style you are choosing to be. You've got to understand that there's only about three styles of trading. You know, you've got your scalpers. They don't give a fuck about what's going on the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the daily, the weekly, the monthly. They're very much interested in what the 1 minute time frame's doing, what the 5 minute, and maybe the 15, right? Um, swing traders, we are looking at what the overall trend is doing. We are looking at the monthly time frame. We are looking to see if, you know, we are beginning to start pushing to the upside. Are we consolidating? Are we sideways? You know, what the weekly is doing, what the daily is doing. And then, you know, we drop down to our kind of 4 hours, 4 hour time frame, 1 hour time frame, and start to build an idea based off what we've looked at on the monthly, weekly, daily. And what I'll be teaching you over the next however many months, you know, I'm not going to drop an educational video every single day because you know you need to kind of digest them one sort of week or maybe every 2 weeks at a time. Purely and solely because you know there's no point me dropping five in a week and then you've got to, you know, try and digest five in that week because then the next week I'm going to drop another two. So you're just kind of, you know, you're putting yourself on the back foot. So I'd rather drop one and you kind of digest it, understand it, rewatch it a few times or however many times you want, and then be like, right, I know what I'm doing with EMAs. So the next one is going to be this. So now I can start implementing what I know on EMAs into whatever this one is. And this is, again, you know, ideas are only going to be produced off of all these things that you are going to be learning, right? I mean, I can, but when you first start, you are not going to be able to generate an idea purely and solely looking at candlesticks when you don't know anything to do with, you know, where the trend is going, what higher highs, lower lows, higher lows mean. None of that. You just, you know, it is price a psychological key level. Has it been? What does consolidation mean? What does bullish, bearish, and all this sort of stuff mean? So, you know, when it comes to ideas, it is very much going to be you're only going to be generating ideas based off of all these number of factors that I'm going to be teaching you. Okay, I've only got to the point where, you know, I can kind of generate ideas off of not looking at a lot, right? And that's, you know, 6 years down the line. I'm not going to say that you guys can't do it quicker because, you know, you probably can with all the knowledge that I'm going to be giving you. I didn't have that stuff when I first started. I very much had to kind of just take little bits from here and there off of YouTube because, again, there wasn't a lot of people on there that were teaching. And I didn't have enough money to buy a mentorship and all this sort of stuff because it was the height of lockdown. And, you know, I was a self-employed barber, so I wasn't working, so I wasn't producing money. I was being paid by the government, which was next to fuck all. So, you know, I very much had to try and find shit from places that was free. But, you know, what I will say is that you've got to understand that ideas that you're going to produce in your head, they're going to be good, they're going to be bad, right? You are going to produce some bad ideas. I went over it in the daily video this morning. You know, what defines a bad idea? I'd say a bad idea is something that you produce and it never gives you any sort of kind of profit, i.e., it's in profit. It just goes straight through to your stop loss, right? That was obviously a bad idea. Now, there's going to be something within that bad idea that you can indicate, right? Because you always have the ability to kind of go, okay, well, why did that do what it did? Did I miss something? Was there something on the lower time frame that I missed, right? Is there something that educational wise I don't know about? Do you know what I mean? There might be something that, say for argument's sake, SR notices on a pair that I don't, because it's not something that I've learned. It's not in my strategy. It's in his strategy. So he's been able to identify something before me, or vice versa. I've been able to identify something before him. So, you know, understanding that you are going to produce bad ideas, but that's life. Like, how many bad ideas have you probably come up with without even knowing it in life in general? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, we've probably all been there where we've thought, I don't know, maybe you're a bit drunk and you think, oh, I'm going to jump over that railing, knowing that it's probably a bad idea because you're just going to fall flat on your face, and you do it, right? Or then you might come up with a good idea, you know, the next day that makes you 100 quid. Oh, I've got a good idea. I'm going to go and do this, which is going to produce this, right? That is what trading is all about. It's just about you know, getting to the point where you can identify things on the chart and go, right, I think GBP USD. Okay, I'll just break down a simple kind of way that I'm generating the idea that I've been speaking about for the last, I don't know, 3-4 months in regards to thinking, right, I believe my idea is that USD pairs are going to start pushing to the upside, right? I think there's going to be strength across the board with USD pairs, okay? And this is how I generate the idea. So I haven't got my EMAs on. Let's just take those off, right? So first off, I'm looking at price, right? I can see that we had a rally here back in, you know, fucking 2002. We had a rally here. We had this big sell-off here, which was in 08, right? Big sell-off. These are monthly candles. We came back up. We sort of traded sideways. We had another leg down. We've traded sideways. We had another leg down. We've traded sideways. Now, I start to mark out on the monthly time frame at my kind of support levels, i.e. my levels where price has kind of hit and reacted from, right? And they're, you know, it's pretty easy to identify. So this area here, and as soon as you draw on, you know, a rectangle tool here, you start to go, right, okay, yeah, that looks fine. 1, 2, yes, we broke below, but we came back above. 3, 4. So this right here looks like it doesn't want to push through here. So it's looking like a pretty solid floor. So I'm going to leave that there. Now, what's above us? Where is a ceiling? You know, because again, trading is just all about looking at things in like floors and ceilings. Well, we had a point here and a point here. So that looks like there's a bit of a ceiling here. Now, to the left, well, there's a point there, and there's a point there, and there's a point there. So if I draw a rectangle tool here, well, that kind of aligns. So that looks like a pretty good ceiling for these touch points and a pretty good floor for all of these touch points. So I need to see, and this again is something that, you know, there are a lot of people that trade on the monthly time frame, like old school traders. This again is patience. Probably one of the biggest factors that you are going to have to endure is patience, right? Understanding that, again, depending on how you want to trade, can be, like I said, scalper, intraday trader, swing trader. Intraday just means that you're potentially holding a trade for more than one day, but you might be closing it the next day. So you got into the position midday on Monday, and then you get out of the position on midday Tuesday. You're an intraday because you've gone over a day. So for me, okay, I've generated the idea that I think, right, we've had a lot of touches here, right? And I think given, bits and pieces about the dollar, what Trump could potentially do to the economy, how it might be for the people, but it's not actually good for the strength of the dollar. So I'm starting to, again, this is filling yourself up with knowledge, going onto these websites, looking at the economic calendar, looking at the news, analysis, press release, all these sort of stuff. It might look boring, right? To you, it is probably boring and it's something that you don't want to do. But, like anything that you are doing and learning in life, you're going to university, you're going to college or whatever, there are going to be aspects within your learning process that you just don't want to do, but you have to do it because all it's going to do is get you one step closer or give you an edge in the market, right? Edge in the market could be, like I said, something that I don't know that this person knows. That's an edge because he's got something over me. So you going and looking at all these sort of things and going, okay, well, Trump's talked about inflation, wanting to lower inflation. What does lowering inflation do to the US dollar, right? We already saw that yesterday. It was predicted to come out higher, but it was worse than it expected. So what did that do to the dollar? Well, it made the dollar sell off, right? So you then go, okay, so lower inflation means weaker dollar. Cool. Well, if Trump wants to continue to try and lower inflation because he's all about the people, then that just means that the dollar is going to get weaker. So what does that mean for USD pairs? Well, that would mean that they would get stronger, okay? So again, back to the idea, touch points here. So we found a good, solid level of support, okay? So in order for me to actually believe that we're going to start pushing up to, these areas up here, where do we need to break? Well, we need to break here. Right. This doesn't mean that I'm going to wait all the because obviously there's lots of trades that I could get into within this kind of area. But my overall idea is only going to be 100% valid if we break this area, right? And we close above this area and we start to do what we did here, because then I know, right, well, the next kind of level is going to be probably around this area here, because again, 1, 2, 3 touches in an area, right, that has obviously been a very, very solid level, right? Look to the left, 1.700 flat. So if price starts to, come up, break through, retest, then I go, right, okay, I know the next area is going to be here, right? The next kind of overall area should be here, right? And it's, again, generating ideas and seeing these sort of things play out is only something that's, comes with time, right? Having more and more successful trades, identifying more and more things in the market. Like I said on stream that, okay, people might say, oh, if you're spending 5-6 hours a day sat looking at the charts, you don't know what you're doing. I think that's bollocks. I personally think that's bollocks, right? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to trading, you've got to enjoy doing this, right? It's all well and good making money. Fair enough. Everybody enjoys making money. But if you don't enjoy the actual aspect, idea generating, lower your strategy, your entry model, all these sort of things, if you don't enjoy doing that part, then trading's just not for you. It's the same as I always refer to, Call of Duty streamers, right? Oh, if you're sat playing Call of Duty for 10, 12 hours a day, you must not be very good at it. Well, okay. Well, the pros in the world don't sit there all day long being good at COD. They're really bad at COD. I mean, I used to spend 22 hours a day playing COD, and that was why I was third in the world for search and destroy. I'm just going to throw that out there. Back in the day, obviously, World at War, that was my game. But that was because I spent 22 hours playing the game, because all I was doing was just getting better, 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 coming across other people that were potentially maybe good, if not better than me, and me beating them. Right. That's just made me better because I've played against a player that might have a different kind of movement or strategy that he uses on this map, and I've been able to outsmart him. Right. And this, again, this is what trading is about. The more and more time you spend doing this, the better you are going to get. Don't get me wrong. You will get to a point where you might have a bit of what's called chart fog. This is where you're just looking at the chart and you're going, right, okay. And this, again, only happens on lower time frame, right? It's, if you're sat on the 5 and the 15-minute time frame and you're trying to generate ideas, you're going to be getting fucked over, because there's so much that happens. There's so much noise. There's so many changes in directions. There's so many manipulations. There's so many wicks. There's so many imbalances. There's all these things that are happening on the lower time frame, which you're going, oh, well, I thought this was going to be a buy. I thought this was going to be a sell. And you're just getting, bent over, right? So your ideas should only ever start on the higher time frame because it's cleaner. It looks cleaner. This month imbalance right here was tapped into and then it sold off, right? It was also tapped into again and then sold off. So this imbalance area here is a very good area to be looking to either take sells to the downside, or like I said, if we break this level, we'll be looking for buys. So generate your ideas on the higher time frame, right? Now, I'm probably going to be fogging a little bit, but yeah, let me just refer back to actually coming up with a trade idea initially. So yeah, I mean, my trade ideas are only ever produced on, but my overall trade ideas, i.e. swing trades that I'm looking to get into for a long period of time, are generated on, the higher time frame, the weekly, the monthly, the daily. Okay. Yes, I can generate small ideas on lower time frames. We did it on the live stream yesterday with gold. But again, let me just go over that. Because I know a lot of you guys missed it. We had two ideas, right? We knew that we had our London high here. We knew we had our Asia high, Asia low here. So that was our daily range. And again, I'll talk about. I've got a a little scalping strategy, which is the orb strategy, which I will probably drop in here for anybody that has never watched it. And this was news. News came out, swept the London high. It also took the high of Tuesday over here. Right. And then we had this big bearish engulfing, bearish meaning red, bad, sell, candle push off here. So we took out the previous two candles, right? So these two green candles, which was probably making buyers think, yep, we're pushing to the upside, would have got horribly manipulated because the next 5-minute candle pretty much took out the two. Okay. So once I'd seen that, I thought, right, okay, within here, these are 15-minute candles, sorry. Within here, we've got we're going to have had an imbalance created by this 15-minute candle. So if we drop down to the 5, you can see that, yes, we've got an imbalance here. So we marked that imbalance out. And I said, in order for you to be looking to take a setup here, i.e. to the sell side or the buy side, because you can have two scenarios happen based on what happens to this area, I said you'd be looking for a green a tap into this 5-minute imbalance and then a bearish rejection, which was this here. Now, not every kind of idea that you map out is going to be clean. It's not. It just not. You can't predict price to a T that it's going to do exactly what you want. It might do it, but in a kind of like snaky way. Do you know what I mean? So yes, we tapped in. We got our bearish engulfing candle here. It sold off a little bit. Even if you were just doing a one-to-one right there, a one-to-one to risk to reward, it would have been roughly about that. Do you know what I mean? Stops just above this green, the green level. That's a one-to-one, just over a one-to-one. And that could have been your trade done for the day, right? Your idea produced, you waited for news to play out. You got an idea by seeing, right, well, we failed to close above London high. We broke back into the range. We caused a 5-minute imbalance. We tapped into it. We got a bearish engulfing candle there. So a good rejection. So I got in. All right. Boom. One-to-one. Got it. We're out. But my one was a little bit more adventurous. Purely and solely because I was like, right, well, we swept London high. We created a new high of the day, which would be US high. Now, from previous experience, and again, I'm going to be using this term a lot, previous experience, because I've got 6 years of it. Previous experience has taught me that the US session, they're normally greedy fuckers, right? They like to hold the high of the day and they like to hold the low of the day, which means, I said this on my course, you've got to look at trading. Firstly, you've got to understand that there's 3 major sessions. Asia session, which obviously happens in the UK, like nighttime. London session, which is obviously your normal kind of 7 o'clock type work session. And then US session, which can't again, there's a kind of discrepancy on when it actually fully kicks in. But you've got US session, which normally kicks in middle of the day. New York session, or the bell rings on New York session around 3-ish or 2:33. So you've got the 3 major sessions. So when Asia session kicks in, there's just Asia by itself, right? There's no London, there's no US. Asia is by itself for quite a number of hours. So Asia session normally sets the high and the low of the day, okay? And then when London session tends to kick in, it will shoot for one of those two, right? It will normally take either the high or the low of the day and set it, i.e. it sets the new high. If you look at your MT4, when you load it up, you'll see that there's, it will give you some digits like the low and high, it will say H and L. High of the day, low of the day. That's telling you where price is, the highest it's been and the lowest it's been for that day, right? But that will be set by a session, an Asia session or London session. So, like I said, given experience, US session tries to take the two, tries to take the high of the day, tries to take the low of the day, right? Greedy fuckers. It attempted to try and take the low of the day right here. It got down as far as, about 40 pips away from the low of the day and rejected. We had more news come out, I think, at 7, which created that kind of push to the upside. But nonetheless, that idea was created by literally, again, me just looking at gold, seeing how it reacted to news, knowing that this, and this, from experience, seeing the imbalance caused, and waiting for the criteria. So yeah, even though I had produced that idea, it didn't get anywhere near to where I was overall thinking. Again, this was just me coming up with, right, if we're failing to break above here, then we possibly could be heading down to the lower regions, potentially even the weekly low of this week. And it just didn't do it. All right. But again, like I said, it's tough to kind of say, how do you produce ideas or trade ideas? Because like I said, what I've just thrown out in this whole entire video is going to be things that you don't know about, right? So you don't know about imbalances. You don't know about this. You don't know about that. The ideas only come through experience, through time spent watching, indicating things that, happen on a daily basis, indicating things that other people might not understand or might not see. I talked about it on stream about the top wicks and bottom wick entries. I've played them out quite a number of times and they've been very, very successful. So I know that works. So if I see something, again, from watching the markets on a day-to-day basis, if I see that potentially happen, I'm going to take it because I've seen it play out a number of times in the past. That's not to say that it will do it, right? It's not to say that it will, happen every time. But that's the markets. As soon as you start to understand that, yes, being robotic is key, coming up with these ideas, but understanding not every idea is going to be successful, right? But that is life. Not every idea that you come up with outside of trading is going to be successful. So, like I said, you will get to a point where you will be able to generate ideas, but it will be further down the line, right? Do not get uptight about the fact that you aren't able to look at the markets and come up with trade ideas because you're just not there yet, right? That's not an issue. Rome was not built in a day, and your trades are not going to be built in a day. You might, again, amazing one-off trades do happen, right? And you might just happen to come across one of those at some point. And when you do that, like I said, it only takes one trade that you have come up with to start building that confidence, to start making you realize, okay, well, I came up with that by doing this, this, and this. So I need to do this, this, and this again and again and again, right? But when you do get that bad idea after doing this, this, and this, don't let it discourage you, right? It's going to happen. There is not 100% win rate strategy on planet Earth, right? There isn't. There just isn't. It does not exist. There is no holy fucking grail. And as soon as you start to understand that, the better your trading journey is going to be, and your emotions as well. That's probably the biggest factor. But yeah, I hope this video kind of helped you understand that you will get to that point. You're just not there yet. And, there's no point me kind of trying to make you think that you are, because there's a lot for you. Well, a lot of you guys in here need to learn a lot. But, people that have been with me for the last 7-8 months, they were like you when they first started. And now they're at a point where they're generating their own ideas, right? So you will get there. They're proof in the pudding that you will get there at some point, okay?